So your presenters today, I'm one of the presenters. Next presenter is Mark Steves, our facilities manager. Mark, would you raise your hand over there? Most of you know Mark because he's been here forever. Mary Heckman is our director of communications. She's in the back in black. And then Richard Bettis, lead usher right here in the front. And Jeannie Garrett. Jeannie's back there in the cream-colored top. Jeannie is an outsourced consultant that has been working with us for over close to a year, I think now. It seems like it, doesn't it? Her company is Grace Communications and Consulting, and the church had the foresight to bring her on to assist us as we work toward implementing these new policies and procedures. Just a quick little bit of history. Back in the fall of 2017, it became active in 2018. There was a committee that was put together, the EOP committee, the Emergency Operations Plan, and their task was to do this. And I'll read it because this says it so much better. To develop a comprehensive plan to address emergency evaluations, lockdowns, severe weather, crisis communications, and then trainings required for staff, ushers, greeters, and then kind of broadening it out and opening it to the congregation. And you know, as we talk about these things today, specifically as we have ushers and greeters in the room, the goal is to create a culture within the life of the church that everybody is responsible to help the church family whenever we're gathered together in these situations. And we'll explain some of the things that have been put in place this past year connected with us. The EOP committee then called me after I got here this year, and they transferred their work over to the staff to implement it. And all the presenters that you see that we just introduced are on that particular task force that is now implementing everything that the committee created. As we go through this process today, please feel free to ask any questions that you may have of any one of us. We will be recording today, so that then we can send this out for future training for greeters and ushers. It won't be a fancy, wonderfully edited, although Mary does great work. But we will have a link that we can look at this in the future. We'll be able to share it with those ushers and greeters that couldn't be here with us today. Again, this presentation is not about how to be an usher, how to be a greeter. This presentation is more about what are the safety things that we are putting in place that you as an usher or a greeter or a staff member, we have some staff here, what you need to know as we move forward. So with that said, I'm going to invite Mary to come on up, and she's going to talk about security resources that we have put together. Many of them you see on the table in front of you. Mary, if you come on. I mentioned we're doing this recording. Be sure not to trip over that tripod. And you just hit it.
I just wanted to hear the camera, which is what I wanted to ask people not to do. So we've been busy putting together some different guidelines and things and looking at some industry best practices. And I wanted to review a few things that we've worked on. On the comm side, you'll notice in all of the classrooms, we have installed a safety guideline sign that talks about fire, tornado, what to do in the situation of a lockdown, calling 911, and then incident reports. This, along with evacuation maps with arrows showing exits, are in all of the classrooms. This is to help raise awareness. We know that people might not look at that in the event of emergency, but we're hoping people will see it, be aware of it, know where the exits are. A lot of times people come in through the same entrance every Sunday. So it's good to be aware of all the different exits. The other thing, we'll be going through the Usher's Guide in more detail, but we have an incident report form, and we have standardized this form for the church. It used to be, there was a children and youth version, now we have a church version. And what's important for this to know about is that if there is an accident, someone falls, or and I'll just read what it is here. An incident is a situation involving abuse of any kind, mental, physical, emotional, or sexual abuse, an injury due to an accident, possession of illegal or indecent property such as weapons, drugs, or pornography. if someone falls or something happens, we need a report filled out and turned into the church office so that we could document it and or investigate a situation. I also want to bring to your attention on your tables the Usher's Guide. I wanted to highlight what's new in here. So on the Usher's responsibilities, there's one item that is new. It's a new policy, and Dave will be talking about that, about counting the offering and then 2 people taking that to the video or the Dropbox. That is highlighted in here. There's safety procedures in here that cover a lot of in more detail, a lot of the items that are on that safety guidelines poster that's in the classrooms. So we're going to be going through this and referencing different aspects of the Usher's Guide throughout this training, so make sure you have it open. We also have extra copies in the Usher's room, and we'll continue to keep those stocked as well. And next, I think, Jeannie's next.
Yeah.
Good morning. My name is Jeannie Garrett. I'm a consultant with Grace Communications, as Dave mentioned. And first, I want to tell you what an awesome staff you guys have here. They, from the clergy, the staff members, they are committed to this plan and to doing the work, the hard work of talking about it, and then the hard work of putting all of this material in place. I'm also so impressed at the turnout here today because it means that you guys are committed as well. This is an amazing turnout, so thank you for being here today. What I want to talk about is what is being called a standard response protocol. It's this piece of paper right up there to the right. And this is something that schools, businesses, and organizations are putting into place. There's a good chance if you have children, they've seen this at their school. What they are hoping is that these signs, these images of lockdown, evacuate, shelter in place will become things that, like stop signs, people know the images right away and they know what they mean. So can you guys hear me? I'll talk a little bit louder. So what I want to talk about is first a lockdown. Lockdown means that there is a threat inside the building. And most commonly, this is what we think of as active shooter. If somebody gets inside the building and you've been notified somehow, or you think that there's an active shooter, there are 3 steps that you would want to go through. The first one is avoid. Avoid is to get away, to run, to get out of the space, that area that you're in. And if it is safe to do so, that is the first action that you should take under the lockdown that we're going to be talking about. So there's 2 things to keep in mind when you're doing the lockdown or the avoiding. The first is to run and take people with you as you go. If you know that there is a threat and you're headed down the hall, don't let people be going that direction unless they're law enforcement or your off-duty police officer. Take people with you as you go. And the second thing, the really important thing to keep in mind is the way you came in may not be the way you go out. Do not get stuck in your mind that, oh, we have to go out the front door or we have to go out, the doors that we normally use. There's always, side doors, exits, windows. Keep in mind whatever you need to do to get out of that space is how you're going to get out. The second one is deny. And deny is when you can't get out, you don't know where the shooter or the threat, may not necessarily be a shooter, maybe somebody with a knife, where the threat is, so you want to stay in place. And this is where you would lock the doors. If you can, this is the standard: lock the doors, turn out the lights, silence your cell phone, cover up any windows if you can, get out of the line of sight. And if you're in a room, this is the other thing, a lot of people lock down in a room but don't think about locking down and then leaving. So if you're on a first or second floor, you might be able to lock down in that room, prevent anybody from coming in, and then get out through a window. So that's the deny. That's trying to make sure nobody can get in. There's some really interesting, I won't spend too much time onto it, but in Virginia Tech, where the shooter came in and he went from classroom to classroom to classroom shooting. The doors that were locked, he didn't get in. He couldn't get in and didn't spend a lot of time trying. But what happened was the doors that were unlocked in the classes he had already been shooting in, he then went back and started shooting again in those classrooms. So the whole locking the doors and being able to prevent somebody from getting in is the number one thing that will keep you and people you're with safe. Even barricading the doors, like in here, I was looking at these doors when I came in, and they're unlocked. And so you would want to put up tables, barricade, use your, imagination to some extent as to how you would do this. But these doors specifically have those metal things that you push open from the inside. And you could take a belt and tie those really tight, or anything that you could use to secure that. But barricading, we've seen pictures at colleges and classrooms where they pulled the door shut and then these desks and chairs were stacked nearly to the ceiling. So whatever you need to do to deny access to that room. And then defend is the last motive, or your last ulterior thing that you would want to do. And that is if somebody came in, what would you be willing to do to protect your life or those that are also in the room? And that, the training that they talk about is either like kind of a mob attack on somebody or throwing things at them, just whatever you can do at that point to kind of confuse them or disorient them and give the weapon away, whatever that weapon is. That's the one I wanted to spend the most time on because that is, that's really where the training is now, and that's what, people are really starting to talk about, and it's not just at churches, it's at grocery stores and at, Walmarts and things like that. These are things that I know more and more businesses and organizations are spending time training employees on. So that's what I wanted to spend the most time on. Lockout is when there is a danger outside the building. And a lockout is more if there is like a riot or a civil unrest or there's a chemical spill that's going on. And so when I'll tell you, and it happens in downtown more often than you would think, there is somebody that's gotten loose from the police and they're running around downtown and they know that they're in the vicinity. They will ask the businesses and churches to lock down. And in that situation, what you do is you lock all of the doors and no one leaves until until it's safe to do so. So an example of that again would be if there's any riots going on or if there's somebody loose, which has happened multiple times in downtown, they'll ask the day schools to lock down and keep everybody inside. And then the shelter in place is the take cover, that those events that we might see here in Austin are tornado and earthquake. And the good news is y'all are in the safest room in this building. So Wesley Hall is where if you were here during the week or on a Sunday, that you would come. There's no no outside windows. In the event of an earthquake, you would get under cables and stay safe this way. But we designated this as one of the safest rooms to be in. So we wanted ushers to know that. And I think at this point, Mark is going to come and talk about one of the other standard response protocols, and that's going to be evacuation in the case of a fire.
Hi, I'm Mark Steves. I'm the facilities manager here, and I'm going to talk about evacuation. Several of y'all were probably here when we did the fire drill a couple months ago. The policy is when the fire alarm goes off, we had this habit of not taking it very seriously. When that alarm goes off, everyone has to leave. There's no option of just waiting it out. Everyone, the idea is to leave through the closest doors. We don't want to go toward the interior of the building. So you want to go to the closest door and get out. We have evacuation chairs, we have 4 of them now, and I'm gonna demonstrate those in a minute. So ushers and greeters, when that fire alarm goes off and folks start exiting all the buildings, your job is to sweep the building. So we're gonna follow everyone out. You're gonna look in every room. This includes restrooms. Every restroom you pass, shout in there, everybody out. As you leave the building, shut all the doors behind you. We want every door closed because in the event of a fire, it's not the fire, it's the smoke that's the most dangerous. So closed doors prevent the smoke from spreading throughout the building. As we sweep everyone out the building, the assembly point is right over here at 12th and Colorado, which if you remember from the fire drill, that's where everyone in these 2 buildings gathered. And once we're at that site, the idea is we don't want anyone to leave for 2 reasons. First of all, we want to be able to account for everyone. And secondly, if folks get in their car and try to leave, then it creates a traffic problem because AFD and other folks are trying to get here. We want to just be over on this corner and stay put until we all clear.
Across the street.
Across the street, yes, across Colorado. Okay, I can't really talk in these.
Since we're recording, I'm gonna hold the mic near and I don't know how effective this is gonna be.
So we have 4 of these evac chairs. One will be in the Usher's room. There will be one in the southwest corner of the balcony, up where that little screen is over there. We'll have one in the FLC in the big storage closet right up next to the gym. The education building, we really haven't decided where this thing's gonna go yet. But in the event, let's say we have a fire and there's a mobility impaired person in the balcony, we need to get them out in a hurry. Elevator's not an option, right? So these chairs are stored like this, but they have a seatbelt type buckle that just keeps it all in one piece. Once you have that removed, you just pop it open like this. It has a footrest on it. It has brakes on the wheels so you can unlock them and it can be used as a wheelchair. The person can be strapped in with these 2 diagonal seat belts, and if they need to be carried, for instance, down the stairs, you have these outriggers front and back. So these come out, and then down here, these pop out. So you can have, takes 2 people, of course, and the person could actually be carried or kind of bounce down the stairs. When I'm done, we've got a few other things. Please come up and take a look at these and just kind of get familiar with it. There's one over here and there's one in the back.
There's also a wheelchair now in the Usher's room along with the evacuation chairs. We have a question over here.
So I want you to be thinking about this. The downtowners class is right above where we are. We have 3 people in our class that would have to have that for us to evacuate. A couple of times when we've had the false thing, we've tried to, and we only have about 3 other people that would have the ability to try to carry them. And when you're telling the story, none of those are on that floor.
We'll buy 1 or 2 more.
Well, I'm just, you know.
We'll get one and we'll put it.
And young people like you, come for us.
What do you consider young?
Anything below 75. No, we do. We have 3 men that attend regularly in our class, and they all have walkers and are pretty.
So that being said, the Family Circus Sunday school class is across the hall from y'all in San 215. We've already talked about it amongst ourselves, and that is our plan. Because I don't want to give away our secret, but we've got a back stairwell where we can exit quickly, assuming, so we can get most of our class out and send in help for you guys to get everybody else out. We've already thought about that.
Because we have to try to go down the back stairs.
Yep, we're prepared for it.
Except this class prefers piggyback, so I hope you're okay.
They're giving us the piggyback, right?
For the next week or two, I'll be able to walk out. We're not talking about me, we're talking about people that a lot of.
Yeah, no.
Well,
We're ready for
it. First aid kit. So we bought 3 of these trauma kits, and we'll make it more. There's one in the Ushers room. In the education building, there's one behind the desk in the reception area. And then across the street at the FLC, there's one in the reception area there. So please come up afterward and just take a look to see what all is in these. All kinds of bandages. There's actually a blood pressure cuff. There's things for burns. It's kind of your typical trauma kit. Okay, AEDs. We have 3 of these, and they're marked. They're required to have a sign. The one in the sanctuary is in that hallway, the south hallway off the narthex, and you'll see a sign up there. It's in a little cabinet. In the office area, just outside Murchison Chapel, there's one, and then across the street, it is in the reception area. So, I don't know if y'all have ever.
Can we hold your mic?
Yes.
We should have it, so.
So it's AED stands for Automated External Defibrillator. So you don't have to know what you're doing. You just unzip it, and there's this little plastic machine here, and you start just by pulling.
Begin by removing all clothing from the patient's chest. Cut clothing if needed.
So I'm gonna stop it because that's as far as you can go until you do the next thing. But it walks you through it. It walks you through it. Each one comes with a pair of scissors in case you need to cut some clothing. And when you come up here to look at this stuff, take a look at this little booklet. Because there are defibrillator pads in here. When you get their shirt off, it tells you where to place them. But it's important to note that the placement for children is different. You don't put them in the same place that you do for adults. And it'll tell you that, the machine will tell you that, but it's also in this little book. So when you come up here, take a look at this too, because it's good to kind of be familiar with this thing. If the occasion arises that you have to grab this and use it, it's good to have seen it before. Lastly, in the event of fire, any of these things, when you call 911, make sure that you give them the address and also tell them, I'll be out in the corner of 12th and Lavaca. Someone needs to go out and flag them down when they arrive. So make sure they're given an address and where someone will be to watch for them. And
So Jeannie, I think you're up next with a fire extinguisher.
Do we get to practice?
Mark, real quick with the make sure that someone flags them down. If you're in the situation, don't just assume that somebody's going to do it. Point someone out,
yeah.
Richard, I need you to go stand on the corner and get AFD, I'm gonna be here. You gotta be specific with it, because everybody will assume that someone else has done it. This way you make sure someone is doing it.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And I also want to point out what Mark is talking about and what I'm going to be talking about with this fire extinguisher. These are not requirements that you have to do as an usher or a greeter. We know that there are people who would not feel comfortable doing any of these things. We know there are some of you who would feel comfortable doing all of these things. I am probably more comfortable if I'm doing it with a couple of people around me for support, whether it's physical support or emotional support. But what this training is intended to do is to give you guys some awareness as to the fact that we do now have these first aid kits and trauma bags here at the church, the AEDs, the fire extinguishers, and where they're located. So we just want to make that really clear. We don't want to scare anybody off from being in this ministry. It's an important ministry and there's lots of different ways to serve it. But this is just kind of an awareness and getting everybody familiar with what resources are here. So with that being said, I want to show you all this video. This video was created by the Round Rock Fire Department, who are the most fun people ever. They have this whole YouTube channel and they make these wacky little videos. It's only 2 minutes long, but it's about how to use a fire extinguisher. And we have seen them, but I probably only used one, not even in the heat of a situation, just practicing one time. And so if you were to come up on a fire or smoke here at the church, again, it is your choice, it is your personal comfort level with if you would want to try to put that fire out. If it's really big and it's overwhelming, certainly pull the fire extinguisher or pull the fire alarm so that people get out of the building and get out, and 911 will already be called at that point, but call 911 and get the fire trucks rolling on that. But if you're comfortable, this is a little video on how to use a fire extinguisher and to get the smoke or the small fire contained. So let's go ahead and watch that.
Most fires start small, but they can grow big really quickly. The use of a fire extinguisher by somebody that knows what they're doing can save a lot of time and money, and it could save your life. I have no doubt that the Round Rock Fire Department can take care of most fires in most situations. Let's go out into the city and find out what other city departments know about fire extinguishers. We're here at the Round Rock Parks and Rec Department with Director Rick Hackins to find out if they know how to utilize a fire extinguisher, or if you even know where the closest fire extinguisher is located, Rick.
I don't know, it's around here somewhere. I guess it's over there. Everybody leave, get out of here.
The city of Round Rock has an amazing IT department, and I'm here with Chief Information Officer Brooks Bennett. Brooks, do you know exactly what to do with this fire extinguisher?
Oh, you bet I do.
Oh,
Mike.
fantastic, man. Take it. Wow, that's quick.
You were greatly in need of an upgrade.
Wow, flashlight and that goggles.
Some tissues to get sad.
That's nice. I'm here with Chief Banks of the Round Rock Police Department, one of the finest organizations around. And Chief, I have one quick question for you. Do you know what one of these things are?
Threat! Chief, are you okay?
Well, that didn't go too good. Just remember, if there is a fire, call 911 first. Then, if you're comfortable, use an extinguisher and use the pass method. Pull the pin. Aim the hose at the base of the fire. And squeeze and sweep. Squeeze the handle and sweep back and forth at the base of the fire until the fire goes out. If the fire doesn't go out right away, back away to a safe place. So Rick, how do you feel? Are you ready to try the pass method on this fire?
Ready to pass.
All right, go ahead, man. Pull, there you go. Aim it, squeeze and sweep. Good job.
All right, Usher Room Resources. Oh, Richard, hi.
Thank you. Actually, I've got a question on that.
Uh-huh.
Years ago, we always had problems with interfaith hospitality, housing the homeless folks over here. Their kids pulled the fire alarms. And I know I personally took a key to FLC over to the nearest fire station. Anybody know if that key is still there? Has anybody ever thought of that?
Yes.
All buildings have it's called a box, that little black plastic box. That all three buildings have that box that has keys to that building, AFD. If they need to get into any of our buildings and we're not there, they can get in using that box.
Okay.
And they do inspections, when they do their inspections, they make sure those keys are there.
Cool.
And furthermore, just one step further on that, in this process that we've been doing with security and safety, just one step further on that, in this process of security and safety planning, in the very back of the Usher guide, you will see very comprehensive plans, building plans of all the rooms of the church and across the street. All of those plans have been submitted and are on file with AFD and with APD. So if they ever got called here in their database, they would be able to pull up those plans and talk through the rooms, using the language that we use, saying, hey, somebody's in Wesley Hall and the fire's over here. And that was a part of this process also, so that our local law enforcement and fire department and EMS could access, because this building is a winding maze of rooms, access it quicker.
Okay, let me talk a little bit about a couple of things that have changed in the Usher's manual, as well as some additional resources we have. It was mentioned earlier about this notebook in the Usher's room, called the Usher's Handbook. And it's something I've got, I think you've all probably seen it in there. We've had some incidents before where we were on watch for somebody that had been disruptive before, perhaps even a person that had a restrictive order against them. It's even more important now to do that every Sunday when an usher comes in, or a greeter, to take a look at the notebook. It's got a person's name, picture in there, description of them, even some information about what's going on with them. If you see those people, it's an opportunity there to get the police officer involved if the need is there. Let him know who that is, keep an eye on them. Secondly, you've got some resources in the building, and there's a page in the booklet that lists all the people that are sort of in charge in various ways for security in the building. But about 3 or 4 names are key. Trevor Harper, Davis King, Kathy Stone.
Two guys.
Okay, y'all hold your hands up. There's Davis King, Trevor Harper back there. We've already met Mark. Of course, Kathy Stone. All 4 of those folks are very familiar with people, especially in the homeless community, and some of the folks that are regularly in the area. So their chances there, and they're well trained and experienced in talking to those people to see what the problem might be and to mitigate any problems. So we don't want to ourselves confront people or try to get people to muscle anybody around. We want to work with the folks in many cases that may be harmless, but it does give us an opportunity to get in front of that in case there's trouble. Also, as I mentioned, the list of people to help. You'll see, you may not see all 4 of them around the very Sunday you're there, but I'll guarantee you one of them at least is going to be a pretty close vicinity. And let some of the others of us know, and we'll be on the lookout to try to address any issue that comes up. Also, be sure you check, it's been in there for weeks, but be sure to check and note and have it on you, is that police officer's cell phone number. Now, in the past, that police officer has toured the entire building during Sunday services. So a lot of times he's not at a post there in the narthex. He's going to be in the area of the narthex more, spend more time there than he does in checking other parts of the building while he's there. So, but still, having his phone number, if he's not there and we need help, have that at hand and have a cell phone at hand. And that's one of the things I'd like to stress, is that we all should have our cell phones with us. And there'll be more conversation in a minute about the communication device. But having a cell phone is very helpful in not only contacting the police officer, but some of us and others that could be helpful in any situation. Already mentioned was the incident report. There are several copies of that in a drawer in the Usher's room now, so that if something does happen, and we can get that all documented and copied to Dave, so that if we need any further action, we'll have the information on that. In Texas, it is, especially in the case of an accident, it's mandatory that we do an incident report. Kind of some of the Usher's duties that changed. One was mentioned a while ago. We want to make sure we're being very secure of the members' money. And we've taken a lot of strides in doing that, having at least 2 people in the money counting business, as well as 2 people signing off on the amount of cash that's documented. We'd like to add another dimension to that is, and that 2 people together, perhaps it can be the 2 people that signed off on the envelope, 2 people together go down and put that bag in the slot. Makes it very easy. If something's missing beyond that, we've kind of covered all the bases. They'll know what direction to go if we have some missing money at some point. Other duties, you might be sure and notice that it doesn't necessarily change your duties, but be sure as you go through this book, and it's going to be talked about a little bit further later, but there's some key things in there, especially on page 4, 5, and 6, where it lists a lot of safety planning that will be very important to you. One change is we'd like to have one of the greeters that serve, and in case at 9 o'clock it may be someone else entirely or one of the 3 ushers, to stay in the area of the narthex. Not only for late people coming in, but it does give us that one added pair of eyes to see what might be going on beyond the congregation. What else? Yeah, well, again, you'll notice the ushers room, Dave and Mary went in there and just changed everything up, so it may not even feel like home anymore. There won't be all that junk you're used to, not there. It's a little bit better organized, so take a look and you'll see all kind of resources around there. Bulletin board's been refreshed and all that. Yeah, Mike?
Hey, Richard, what should we do if we see somebody that's got real aberrant kind of behavior or carrying an unusual package or anything that looks suspicious? How should we handle that?
Well, that's a couple things. One is you got, especially if it's particularly suspicious, notify the police officer, because they'll be watching them and may be able to approach them. Secondly is one of those 4 people, it would be good to ask about it, because in some cases they're going to say, yeah, I know that guy.
Right. I wouldn't want to, interrupt somebody that, known everybody.
Yeah, anything else on that, Dave?
No, that's good. Just, again, first line of defense is Kathy, Davis, Trevor, who's the 4th person?
Mark.
And, Mark Steve, oh yeah, Mark. That's the first line of defense because they're well trained at dealing with people that, whether it's a mental breakdown of some sort or whatever, let them have that conversation. You don't have to have that conversation.
And Kathy just reminded me, we're supposed to have mana bags in the Ushers room, which would be really convenient if someone came in and was just hungry to have those accessible.
We can't hear you.
We'll look at getting a spot. Kathy reminded me, we're supposed to have mana bags in the Ushers room, which there are not any in there now, but we'll work on getting space for those. In the event someone was hungry and they wandered in, those would be accessible for the ushers to grab one and hand to somebody.
Okay, let's move on to
Mark.
Thank you, Richard.
Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about our off-duty police officer. We have a contract with Officer Jamie Carrillo. He has a stable of about 5 additional officers in Jamie's got in the narthex. We're working on a policy that we've talked with Jamie about. We're in the process of writing this up for him to distribute to his officers so that they all abide by the same policy. One of those things that, if there is some kind of disturbance in the sanctuary, the officer is going to stay in the narthex. So that officer lays eyes on everyone in the narthex. He can kind of see those 2 adjacent hallways, and he's also going to be watching the steps and Lavaca and the sanctuary. If something happens in the sanctuary, we don't want the officer to enter that room unless, A, he deems a real physical threat. If there is a real threat, he's going to go into that room. Or B, one of us asks him to. If you see something going on in the sanctuary that maybe he's not watching at that particular moment, go get him and inform him. And those are the only 2 situations where we want that officer in a uniform in that room. We want them to stay out in the narthex. As Richard mentioned, the officer used to patrol kind of the child care, the Sunday school area, and the education building. We've decided we want him to stay in the narthex, so we don't want to leave that unattended. So we've purchased some walkie-talkies, and at the beginning of every shift, those guys work from 8:30 to 12:30 every Sunday. So at the beginning of the shift, he'll get a walkie-talkie. Someone, Pam or Laura, in the childcare area next door will have a walkie-talkie. They will test it. That way, if someone down there needs the officer, they'll just radio him and he can go down there. Let's see. Criminal trespass notice. So in the Ushers, in the guidebook here in the back, there are a few pages of folks that we asked the officer to watch out for. We've had issues with some people. If it's someone we've deemed that we want to issue a criminal trespass notice on, it's noted in this book. The decision about whether or not we want to issue a CTN, that's a pastoral decision. So Taylor and Kathy will decide if we want to issue a notice. What that means is, normally, like during the week, if something happens and we want to notice, we have to call the police. That person still has to be present when the officer arrives. Then one of us, staff or whoever, has to tell that person they're not welcome in the presence of the officer. The officer then issues the notice. Sunday mornings is much easier because the officer's right there. So something happens, we decide we want to issue a notice, we do that process, we tell the officer this person is not, we don't want them here. They will issue a notice, it'll have a case number. What it means is the next person, that time that person comes back, they are subject to arrest. So our bar for issuing a CTN is fairly high. We need to consider them to be a real threat of some kind. What else? Bag search, that's the last thing. The officer has discretion to search any bag that he deems suspicious, right? Ushers and greeters will not check bags. If one of you sees a bag that you think should be checked, you go and notify the officer. And so the officer is the only one that's going to check bags. And that includes carry bags and unattended bags. We've had that happen too. So everybody knows, these days, if you see a big bag just laying somewhere unattended, we think about those things. So notify the officer if you see that. Is that it there?
I think so. Any questions? You got that? Okay.
It's not really my issue, but they had the shooting up around Fort Worth a couple of weeks ago, and there were 2 or 3 people there that were carrying concealed weapons. I don't need to know, but I think we ought to know if there's anybody in our congregation that's carrying a concealed weapon. When I saw that, I thought my reaction was, there's not anybody in our congregation going to show up at 11 o'clock carrying a concealed weapon. But I thought, well, there might be. And if they had a situation like they had there, it would be nice to know that.
Well, in this church, theoretically, on Sunday morning, there is one open carry person, and that's a police officer. We have Texas Criminal Statute 3006 and 3007 posted on every door. We disallow open carry and we disallow concealed carry. That's not to say someone is violating that.
No.
We don't know, but in theory, that police officer is the only one that has a gun.
Is there another question back here?
This is more a statement than a question. I've made it a habit every Sunday to go up and say something to the police officer along the lines of, we appreciate what you do for us every day. We know that the city council doesn't have your back, but most of the rest of us do. And I've been stunned at the extent to which they seem really appreciative of that. In Austin, we spend so much time doing what we can to make people in the community feel comfortable with the presence of the police. I think it's important that we do what we can to make the police feel comfortable that we're like what we're doing. And so I don't know if there's anything we could do as a collective church for these officers, but as individuals, I can tell you, if you go up and say something nice to them, it'll kind of make your day the way that they respond.
Yeah, I agree. Get to know these guys. They make $40 an hour doing this. And I think it's better for all of us if we're on a team together and spend some time getting to know them.
Awesome.
Can
I'm being mindful of time here. Yes.
As a retired police officer, I appreciate that. I want to add on to what Tom had said about the shooting at White Settlement. You know, when a police officer goes into a situation, if you do have people who are armed, we don't know who the good guy and the bad guy is when we come in. So that's dangerous. But the second thing, the thing that really amazed me when I read all the articles on the shooting was how many people in there felt suspicious of this person. And so the question is, what is suspicion? What is natural suspicion? People do it, but don't realize it. You know, it's anything that makes you nervous, anything that seems out of place, anything that seems uncharacteristic. And that should be your warning bell that there's something suspicious going on here. All of the people sitting around this guy long before he ever went into the active shooting mode, all were nervous, suspicious, and kind of moving away from him. That should have been a clue.
And that speaks to what I said earlier about everybody being aware.
Correct, but you got to know what suspicion is, because the thing that amazed me in my 38 years was that you would go to people, and I'll use one example that has nothing to do with shootings. It was a burglary, happened in Terrytown. Van pulls up, literally unloads the entire house and leaves. And so the family gets back from vacation a week later, they file a burglary report. The officers got out there and they're talking to the neighbors, and all the neighbors said the same thing. You know, it struck me as odd they were moving out because we know them well and they never said anything. That should be your clue. Something suspicious is going on.
That's a great reminder, thank you. Moving forward, because I'm conscious of time here, I've got a few policies, and this next one is, I think, a big deal. So I need to spend a few minutes on this, and then I want to be sure we have enough time for Mary to come up and talk about the group me, because that was an interesting process as we tried to onboard you all this way. What is this? So we want to talk about that and get a few minutes in there. So very quickly here, well, this one may not be very quickly. We have decided as a team, and the pastors have talked about this numerous times and have agreed they want us to do this, okay? We're gonna lock down a number of the doors in the sanctuary. We're gonna lock down access. Let me try to explain. Right here is next to, as you're coming up the stairwell where the water fountain is, that first wooden door there, we're going to lock that door. That will not be an access door except to leave. We're gonna retrofit all the doors that I'm gonna talk about now with crash bars. So if you're inside, you can get out if there's a fire. But if you try to get back in, say you have to go to the bathroom, a little child needs to go to the bathroom, they go out the crash bar, they go to the bathroom, come back, they won't be able to get back in. Everybody needs to enter now through the narthex. The policeman has eyes on everybody in the narthex. That's why we're doing this, okay? Over on this side where the elevator is, handicap access, we're actually gonna lock that door so they'd have to come down the hallway into the narthex. Now we may decide, especially on that door, and this is just a process, we're gonna learn as we do this, okay? We may make changes. We may ask a greeter or an usher to actually allow people in that door, but they're monitoring the door, and that's key, all right? And then, here's a big one. Both up in the balcony, this is on the chancel end where the choir sings. The two doors on either side of the balcony, and the two doors down below on either side of the chancel, those are gonna be locked as well. That's 6 doors that we're gonna lock down. People can get in the building, come under the maze of the building, and come up those back stairwells and do what they're gonna do. So we're gonna lock those down. So the 4 doors at the front will be locked. Again, you can get out, you just can't get in. And the 2 doors here. Now, at the end of the service, here in the back, on either side, those doors could be propped open and let people leave, but then they need to be locked again by our ushers. Does this make sense?
How would the people and walker people get to the elevator from the handicap side if that door's locked?
They're gonna walk the hallway to the narthex or out in the narthex or go down, or we choose to put a monitor there every week. It's gotta have somebody at the door,
I'm just not understanding the first part.
okay?
The entrance there on the
Well, that'll be open.
northwest side.
Yeah, but out the exterior door is open.
Oh,
It's
okay.
just the interior wooden door up.
Thank you, I
on the
misunderstood.
sanctuary level. Sorry about that. I
Thank you.
didn't make that very clear. As you come off the elevator, that door will be locked. Does everybody understand the doors and the situation that we're looking at?
Yes, but what
Yes,
time
sir.
are they being locked?
Well, they just won't be unlocked. In fact, Mark is talking right now to a particular company that might do the retrofit. They may be the kind of locks where they're just always locked. Maybe just when the door closes, it automatically locks. We're working on that. Again, this is a few months out, most likely, because we've just begun the conversation with the vendor, and then you never know if stuff's back ordered by the time they get an install date. So this could be well into March or later before this actually happens. I'm just telling you today it's coming. And the purpose is to lock things down so we're more secure. Everybody enters through the narthex, the policeman sees everybody. That's the goal. We may find some kinks in that, and then we'll flex and try to figure out a way to make it work.
Can you talk about the balcony access?
The balcony access, the two back balcony doors are open. And that is the one weak point, thank you, Mary. That's the one weak point that we may have. If you come, the staircase that comes up next to the water fountain, you could come from the outside and keep on going and climb up and get in the balcony. But at what point, unless we put monitors who let people in and out of the balcony, at what point do we lock those doors as well? I think what we're trying to do is reduce access, not completely eliminate it. So that is one weak point that we haven't come up with a better solution at this point. Is that particular balcony entrance. That's the one spot. Okay, I'm gonna bypass the greeter usher positions. Richard talked a little bit about that. And I think the plan is, even with the locked doors downstairs in the back, we still want the ushers and greeters spread out, because people, even if they come in through the narthex, they're gonna head to the side where they wanna go to their normal seats anyway. Okay? You mentioned already, and I cannot emphasize this enough, we did have an incident this Christmas Eve, and where a theft occurred, and it is just so vital that 2 people sign that bag and 2 people walk to the depository. Those are on camera, by the way. So we know who goes to the depository, okay? And why wouldn't you want that anyway? I would never want to go do that by myself and then be accused later of stuffing some money in my pocket. So I think it's really important that with the 2 people who signed or 2 others, make sure those bags get down to the depository, okay? Incident report's been talked about. Thank you for working on that. Lost child, if you go to page 15 in your Usher handbook, I'm gonna offer that up for you to read, and it gives you instructions as to what to do if there is a lost child. Or, parents are looking for a child, or the child itself is lost, one or the other. Please read that. I'm not gonna do that today. And that's probably why I would say, be sure to read the whole thing. This book is filled with not only your normal stuff that you do as an usher or a greeter, but it also includes some of these things, policies we want to follow with a lost child, okay? And then no panhandling, I think that speaks for itself. We don't allow people coming in or out on our steps. Now, you've got a police officer if there's an issue out on the sidewalk, right? We don't have a lot of control because the city owns the sidewalk. If there are people out there doing whatever, picketing, things like that. But if there's a panhandler that's being troublesome, just get the officer and I think they can deal with that as well. All right, that was fast because I really want to talk about the GroupMe app, but any really pressing like, oh man, you guys didn't think about this. If you come up with that, email me. Happy to receive it, happy to bring it to the committee because our committee still is working, we're not done. We're gonna keep meeting bi-weekly to get things finished. So Mary, would you come on up and talk about the GroupMe app And then I will close us out.
The recommendation from Jeannie, our security consultant, was that we have a very easy and fast way for ushers to be able to communicate in the event of an emergency. GroupMe is an app that creates a group by cell phone. And this week, thanks for bearing with me, we realized we didn't have everybody's correct cell phone number, or it was a process, but we created GroupMe groups for the ushers for 9 a.m. as a group, 11 a.m. as a group, and then the greeters, which are only at the 11 a.m. service. The idea behind that is that, and I would like to open this up for a discussion. As Dave pointed out, in the balcony, you will have 2 entrance points, either the elevator or the stairwell on this side of the building. In the event someone was suspicious up there and the security officer did not have line of sight or a view of them, you could use the GroupMe app to say, there's a suspicious person, I'm in the balcony and I need somebody to come take a look, I need reinforcements, or I need the security guard to come up. That would be an example. And then whoever retrieves that could go get the officer and bring up there. The idea is that it's meant to not be spam. It's meant to be a way, in the event of emergency, you could quickly reach out to ushers in your time slot. There is an opportunity if you wanted to, not necessarily have to, but I know there are Sundays where Richard has said people just didn't show up and they're pulling people out of pews to come help usher. There could be we're short, you could do a last minute sub request and see if anybody's on site, jump in the narthex and help. That could be another opportunity. On the app, before I open up to questions, there's an option to turn off the SMS notification, the text message. I know that as I was getting it set up, it was a little unnerving for some folks because it was pinging everybody. So there's like 40 in the group for 11 a.m. ushers, there's a lot. You can, once you create the GroupMe account, you can go onto the website and you can turn off those. The idea would be on Sunday morning, if you do turn off the text notification, keep the notification on your phone on and make sure you have your phone with you during the service. In the event you got a notification and someone was saying, hey, help, SOS, you'll just be able to see that. So I'd like to open it up for anybody that has any ideas or scenarios where the GroupMe app, from a security perspective, would be helpful.
Mine says it doesn't recognize my phone number.
Okay, and if you're having trouble, yeah, definitely I can help you with that, make sure we get you set up correctly in there. I've used this application for another organization where I'm a board member, and we've used it for like just quick decisions and things. It's a really great way to communicate. The other thing also is inside the GroupMe app, if you type a message to the group, it will ping everybody in the group. But the cool thing is you can start a direct chat with someone and even if you don't have their cell phone number on your phone, I could send a direct message to Caroline Jones and say, hey, are you working this Sunday? I can help you. You don't have to send it to the whole group. So keep that in mind. If you need a sub or something, you can message directly without the entire group.
We're at the end of our time. Would you quickly go to page 16 in the Usher book? Usher Greeter Guide. And you will note there are some phone numbers and names there. If you're not getting a response with the GroupMe, you're not sure who the head usher is that day, I'm at the very top, and I'm a floater on Sunday mornings. So I'm welcome for you to have my personal cell phone number, call me, and I'm glad to come wherever you are and deal with things, but I'm not the only one. I'm here most Sundays, but not always. Mark is here, not here every Sunday, but most Sundays. Dave Bonner, our custodian, he knows the drill. He's another option. And then look at the bottom, the professional counselors and the medical professionals. These are people who have said, yes, you may have my name and you may have my phone number and you may call me. And I'm happy to come be of assistance. Again, if there is a medical emergency, an emotional emergency, an incident report is very critical to have. Quick question here.
I don't have a question, I have an observation.
Okay, observation.
The area code for Richard Bettis is wrong.
Uh-oh. We got you wrong here, Richard, it sounds like. It's oh, great catch. Great catch, it's 512, not 522. Awesome catch.
Good catch.
Thank you. Boy, and the best proofreaders in the world have been through this thing a dozen times. That's awesome. Again, we may be the first line of defense. Thank you for participating. You have some support. We will continue to massage this. This is the first edition of this guide. It could change over time. When we lock down the sanctuary and get in that process, some things can change there. Again, I cannot emphasize enough, if, like we didn't do this past summer, when the fire alarm went off, we all just kind of stood around and looked at each other. From now on, we leave the building. And that means the sanctuary as well. Even if Taylor's in the middle of that sermon, we gotta get out of the building, because you just don't know what's going on and the purpose of that rain. Do you have a question?
No, I don't have a question, I have a comment. I'd like to commend the committee.
Oh.
You guys have obviously put in a lot of thought and work.
Well, thank you. She's commending the work. Thank you. Now, be sure that applause goes to Earl Crane, and some of you may have been on the EOP committee, the emergency operation plan that met for a year working out the plan that was handed off to us to implement. So that team, bravo, well done. Another comment.
Okay, I just downloaded the app and how we did government receipt.
Okay, she just downloaded the app and wonders how to go. Could you check with Mary when we're done?
Yeah.
That would be awesome. I want to thank you for coming today, for staying here until 1:15. Those of you who served in the 9 a.m. service and came back, bravo, thank you. Go and enjoy your Sunday afternoon. Thank you.